All right. So this is a page in our packet, and it's the first page. Now, what you need to know is that the white area here, these three blocks, are where you're going to be putting your initials. So the instructions on this thing, you can't read them right this second, but it says the following thing. You're going to be using the grid below to draw a set of straight lines and arcs to create capital alphabetical letters for your initials, which would be your first, middle, and last name initials, of course. You're going to mark all the endpoints and center points on the grid intersections. Your design must contain a minimum of 3 arcs. Now, like my last name is Seward, and actually that is that's like 4 arcs, to be honest with you. So I'm not too worried about if you have one letter that has 3 arcs in it, you're fine, okay? If you got 2 letters, or I'm not so hung up on that, just so long as we do at least one radius. So we're going to be using what's called an 1/8 of an inch end mill to produce your initials. Note, the grid consists of 1/16 of an inch spaces. Remember, we're going to have to consider our tool cutter compensation, and I'll talk about that in a second, so that each letter will end after milling with a dimension of 1.5 by 0.75 inches. Just as long as we stay inside of this white box, we'll be fine. Label each of the significant points on your design with an alphabetical letter. Then you're going to chart the significant coordinates in the table below using absolute coordinates. Remember to record the arc center points as well as their endpoints. So we'll show you that in a second also. All right, so this is the block. Now, I want you guys to do the same letter with me just so that you follow along and know how to go about doing this thing, all right? So here we go. So we got to stay inside of this white area here on this block. Now, the way to do that is, remember they told us that the grid is 1/16 of an inch step in. So I'm going to take and put a dot in that if I come from this corner right here is up 1 and over 1, and I'm going to put a dot right there, and I'm going to put the alphabetical number A right there. All right, so that's our first point. Now, when we say absolute coordinates, you always are going to be working from what's called the origin, and the origin is right here. This is the x0, y0. So remember in our graphics classes and all of that good stuff? What do you need, Nate? Okay, right up here in the cabinet right there, look up. Pencils right there, there's 2 of them. Yep, no problem. All right, so anyways, so we start 1 block in and 1 block up. Now, a minute ago I mentioned something about cutter compensation. What that means is that if my pencil here is the tool, okay, that's going to be in the mill that we're going to be cutting with, the path that we are going to be drawing, the center of the tool is going to go right down that path. So to each side of the path is going to be another 1/16 of an inch. No, another 32nd of an inch. So if this is, and you don't have to draw this next circle. So this dot right here, what's going to happen is it's actually going to make a circle like that all the way around the letters that we're going to be creating. All right. So Justin, this is going to be like your last name starts with a P. We're going to do a letter P right now. And the reason is because it's my first initial, and we also have an arc in it. So we're going to show you how to do this. All right. So I start with this first point in 1 block over and 1 block up. The next one, I'm going to put another point in here, 1 block over and 1 block down. Okay, and we're going to call this one B, as in boy. So we've got our A and our B right now. And you can just connect this with a line. You don't have to make it a perfectly straight line. Just do as good as you can. Okay, so there we go. We've got our first 2 points for our letter B or P. All right, now what we're going to do here is we are going to go from letter B over 2 blocks, 1, 2, and we're going to put another point right here. And this is letter number C as in cat. So the reason we do this little step over is because we're going to make an arc now that comes around and back. And what you need to do when you do an arc with one of these tools is, and I'm going to show you this block, all right? So this block wasn't done by me, it was somebody else's, but it's a pretty good illustration of the way that this will work. So they came up to here, they went over 2 blocks, and then they did an arc. Now they didn't get the arc in the right dimension. That's why it looks a little, I guess the best way to put it is flat. And then they stopped here with their end of arc point, and then they came back. So we're going to make a point, something like that, on ours. So here's the story. This is actually going to be, the arc is going to be 10 units long, all right, or in diameter. So I'm going to, from point C, count down 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I'm going to put a point. And that is letter D, right there. So if I go back up to C and count down 5 again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm just going to put a point there, but I'm not going to number that one because I don't need that. I'm not going to put a letter on it because I don't need to tell the computer where the location is of that point. That's the center point of the arc. So from this center point up to here, it's 5 units, and from this center point down to here, it's 5 units. That's our radius. So I'm going to come from the center point and count out 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I'm just going to put another dot here. And I do that just to kind of help me to draw a radius. So we are going to, when we get to point C on with our computer, bless you, we are actually going to issue a radius command, and we're just going to, what's up, Mike? The radius is 5, so from here to here it's 5. And my arc doesn't look too super, but that's okay. We're just hand drawing the arc in, and it's just to make sure that we know where the arc is, okay, or where it should be. So we've got A, B, C, and D. We have one more point. We're going to go from D back to our line and put a point, and that is point E, as in excellent. All right. So we've got A, B, C, D, and E. Now, just to preview this a little bit for you, when we go from this letter here to this one over here, the next letter will be F. And we'll just go through the alphabet like that, all right? All right, so we're just going to program the letter P right now. So that's good. We've got that. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take and we're going to get this piece of paper right here. This is the coordinates for straight and curved letter initials using linear and circular interpolation, and these are absolute coordinates. Now, how many of you realized when you were in geometry class that this stuff would actually, that stuff that they're talking about would actually be useful? Because it is, right? All right. So what we're going to do now is we are going to start taking these points, and you'll notice there's A, B, C, D, E, F, all the way down through Z, and then they start with double A all the way through double Z, and then so on. So there's a lot of opportunities for points on this thing, okay? But you're not going to need that many. All right. So what we do is we need to put the coordinates for the x value of where our P is, point A, and then the y value for point A. So let's take a look at this thing. Now, this axis down here, all right, this lower axis, this is the x-axis. And then this axis is the y-axis. Whoops. So all of our points for the x values are going to come from this side of our chart, and the y's are going to come from here. So the first point, point A, what I'm going to do is I'm going to trace that down, and you're going to see that I get to 0.3125. So here on my chart, my x value is going to be 0.3125. And by the way, just so you know, in case I didn't say it, I think I did, each one of those little blocks is a 1/16 of an inch. So everything is a multiple of a 1/16 of an inch. Yeah, Mike. Different. You'll put your first initial in one block, your second initial in this block, and your third initial in this block. Okay? All right. So I've got the x value for point A. Now I need to find its y value. So I'm going to go up here, and I'll trace back along, and this one happens to also be 0.3125. So the y value here is also going to be 0.3125. Okay. Are you guys with me so far? Okay. Charles? Okay, good. All right, now, so we've got our coordinates for A. So we're going to now do our x and y coordinates for point B. So Justin Patrika, what's the x value for point B? That's correct. So point B is 0.3125. Mike Z, what is the y value for point B? Ah, well, that's a problem. All right, Alex, you want to give me a shot? Point B, the y value. Point B as in boy. That's correct. So it's 1.6875. And you need to do these things to 4 decimal places, guys, just so you know. All right, Charles, point C. What's going to be my x value for point C? So point C is right here. That's correct. So my x value is 0.4375. Nate, what's going to be the Y value for point C in this instance? Yep. All right. Okay, dokes. Now, this is where we're going to have to look at point D. Okay, so Justin, we're going to be back to you. Justin, can you give me the X value for point D? That's right. And I'll skip Mike. Alex, can you give me the Y value for point D as in dog? Yep, that's correct. 1.0625. All right. Nate, you want to give me the X and Y for E? Yep. Yep. 1.0625. So these are all the points for us to write a letter P. Now, notice I don't think I made the point quite well enough here, but when you do the letter P or the letter B or any letter that has a round like that, you want to step, you don't want to go right from like point B and around to point E. You want to go over 1/8 of an inch, which is 2 blocks, and then do your arc and then come back 2 blocks to that point. Okay, so that's something you should keep in mind for when you're doing your sketching. All right, excellent. So we have our curved letter initials. Now, we're going to turn this page over. And this is where we start to actually write our code. All right. And the annoying part is that the information that we need for this, the coordinates, is on the back side of this piece of paper, but we'll get there. So here's what I want you to do. The last page in your packet is your list of G&M code references, right? So we're going to talk about what's going on here right now. So the other day when I chatted with you about this, I told you that this first block where it says N00, that was a particular thing. Mike, do you remember what I told you about the letter N? It's the number, right, of the block. So G00 or N00, sorry, is the block number. So they start with 0. Now, the next line over here, all right, is a G90 space G20. So, Justin, what's a G90? Right. So we have to tell the computer what type of coordinate system we're using. Are we going to use absolute or are we going to use relative? We're only going to use absolute. We are not going to use relative. All right. Now, so we've got that. Now, G20. Alex, what's a G20 going to do for us? That's correct. We got to tell this computer that we're working in inches, not in millimeters. So that's the reason we use the G90 and the G20 there. As a matter of fact, when you see the coordinates over here or comments, and everything we're going to write with comments. So it's absolute coordinates, comma, inches. So they should have written that there, but they didn't for some reason. All right. So Nate, let's find out how well you were paying attention there. What does N01 mean? Mike, be quiet. Okay, do you see are you looking at the reference sheet? It's on the last page. So look at the frequently used characters and what is right underneath that where it says N. That's correct. Yeah, it's the block number. All right, now, as I go across, there's no G codes, and then there's no X, Y, Z, I, J, R, but there is an M06. So, Charles, can you tell me what M06 is? Tool change. Well, yes, that's correct. An M06 is a tool change. And then the T, Charles, what does that tell you? That's correct. It's the tool number. So this line, the comment is tool change to a 1/8 of an inch end mill. All right. So that's what is going on there. N02, we know that's the number already. And then we don't have anything on this next line until we get to M03. So Alex, what is an M03? That's right. This is where we're starting our spindle up. Now, Alex, on that same line, we have S3000. What does that mean? That's correct. The spindle is now going to start rotating at 3,000 RPMs, revolutions per minute. So that's why the comment here is spindle on, and that's clockwise. You can turn the spindle counterclockwise, but we don't ever have a need to do that. Then you have a speed of 3,000 RPMs. All right, good. Justin P., can you please tell me what G00 means? That's correct. So what's happening right now is my tool is spinning over the top of the part. When we do this with our letter blocks here, it'll be located right here. This is going to be where our origin point is 0, 0. Okay. So what's going to happen is I'm going to tell it G00, and then I'm going to have it move to the first point, which would be right here. So G00 is a rapid move, and we only do rapid moves when we are above the material. And in particular, all the time we can do them at the 2-inch level. When we're at 0.1, we can also do them. So we'll talk about that in a second. So right now, our tool is 2 inches above the top of our material. So we can do a G00 move in both the X and Y axes in those two directions. Now, what we got to do is we're going to take a look back here at our chart, and we're going to see that point A, the point where we want to go to, is 0.3125, comma 0.3125. So in this box where it has the number X, we're going to put in 0.3125. And then in the Y value, we're also going to put in 0.3125. So what just happened is our tool went from here, 0, 0, up in the air, and it moved fast over to the first point in the letter P. And it is 2 inches above our material surface. Now, we go over across and we see that it says that this is a rapid to above point A, which is good. Now, the next thing is we have N04. And here's something you can do but you don't have to. There's a G00 here. And what's going on with this G00 is that we are going from 2 inches to 0.1 inch above the surface of the material. So it's 0.1 inch up from the surface of the material. And that is done with a rapid move, which is a G00. So this tool goes from up here to real fast down to the paper surface. All right. So the G00 that we have right here, did I really need to put it in? No. Why, Mike? Right. You don't need it here because it's in the prior command. And you have to remember that the software is modal, which means it maintains that mode until you change it. So you can put it in. It's just more typing. That's all. All right. So we have a G00 here. And then we come across, there's no X, no Y, but there is a Z, and it's going to zoom right down to 100,000ths of an inch above the surface of the material. So then it says right here, rapid to 0.1 above the part. Good. So now, N5, and it's a G01. Justin, what's a G01 do for me? So that's a straight line move, all right? We are going to go straight down, and you'll notice something here. We're going on the Z-axis minus 0.0625, and then we come across, and we have an F command for the first time. F is for feed. So this is a feed rate of 9. So G00, we don't put a feed rate in, it's just fast. But when we're going into the material to cut, and when we're in the material cutting, we need to set a feed rate so that the machine knows how fast to move the tool. So we're going to go down at a speed of F1 at F9, 9 inches per minute. So the comment here is plunge 1/16 of an inch at 9 inches per minute. Now, I will tell you this right now. Later on in our code, you're going to want, and I'm just going to put a point next to these, you're going to want these 3 lines of code because you're going to repeat them when you move from the end of your first letter to the start of your second letter, and then from the end of your second letter to the start of your third letter. You're going to use these 3 commands just like this in a row. Notice the XY move was done first, and then the Z move was done second. Some people sometimes do take this Z move and put it up here with the XY, but the problem is that when you are machining something, sometimes there's some fixturing in the way, and you want to be above it at 2 inches. That's not a problem. So the machine will move like this. It'll go straight across and then down. But if you do it with the Z move at the same time as the XY, it does this. It angles down to it. So it's the best thing is to go across and then down. All right. Okay, good. So we are at N06. We are above, or we're in the material at this point right here. We want to go from A to B. Okay. So the way you go about doing that, going from A to B, is you're going to use straight line interpolation because we're going in a straight line, right? From here to here, that's a straight line. So it's a G01. Do I have to put a G01 here in number 6? No, you don't, because it's modal. Good. Now, what we do have to do, though, is we, in the X column, so I'm just going to write this really small, we're going to put in the coordinates for point B. So that is X of 0.3125, Y of 1.6875. X, I forgot already. 0.3125. Yep. My pencil quit. X of 0.3125, Y of 1.6875. Now, when you are entering these numbers and letters and numbers into the computer, one of the big mistakes people make is they put a space between the X and the numbers, or between the Y and the numbers, or the Z and the numbers. You always want to enter these things tied together, okay? All right, so now we are going to go to the X and Y value for point B. The feed rate here, we're going to change because we're in the material now. We're not plunging into it. We're going to change to an F18. Our note, we're going to abbreviate this SL, which stands for straight line, 2 PT B at 9 inches per min. Okay. So you're going straight line to point B at 9 inches per min. You must, okay, when you're writing code, put comments in, because you won't believe how much easier it is to find mistakes. Right, Franklin? All right. Next move. This is going to be N07. And we are going to go from point B to point C. Alex, can you tell me what the commands are going to be to go from B to C? What was that? What? Okay. So what we do is we go when we find our coordinates for point C and our X value of 0.4375 and 1.6875. So 0.4375. So we're going to set our X at 0.4375 and our Y is going to be 1.6875, and we're still going to be at a feed rate of 18, and so that's not a problem. We don't have to change anything. So our note here is going to be straight line to point C at, whoops, that shouldn't be 9 inches. That should be 18 inches. Sorry. That's at 18 inches per minute. Okay. Okay, Justin Patrica, what's number 8 going to be? N08. Let's see. Hold on a second. So right now we're here. No, not yet. We're going to go from C to D. But what's the difference between the parts between C and D and A and B? This was a what line? What's this one? An arc. So what's the command for doing an arc? That's correct. G2. Okay. So N08 is going to start with G02, and then we're going to put in our coordinates for point D, as in dog. So the coordinates for point D, whoops, everything's falling all over the place here, are 0.4375 and 1.0625. So the Y is going to be 0.4375. Oops, sorry, the X. And then the Y is going to be 1.0625. And the note here is going to be CW for clockwise to point D at 18 inches per minute. All right. So right now I'm at point D. I have one more point to do because I have to move from D to E. Okay. So anybody want to tell me what that's going to be in 2 seconds? N09. Is this going to be a straight line or a curve? Nope. Going from D to E, it's a straight line. So what do we have to put in the first column for the G column? G01. And then our X value is going to be from our chart 0.3125, Y 10625. So it's an X of 0.3125 and a Y of 1.0625. And we have one more command to do. This is a straight line to point E at 18 inches per minute. And we are done with this letter, and we are going to pick the tool up out of the material. So this is going to be an N10. Don't go anywhere. Finish this. G00. And it's going to be a Z of 1.00. Bye. Okay. And then the note here is rapid above part. Rapid above part.